Good afternoon. My name is Augustine Phillips, and about a year ago, a dream I've had for some time came true when a friend of mine, Jerry Hill, invited me to attend her Thomas Simpson's writing class at the Dr. George Davis Senior Center. I was hooked from the first day. And tonight I'd like to share 3 of my short stories that I've written in the class with you. Thank you. The first one is titled, My First Day of School. 77 years ago, I started my first day of school at Hills Chapel School in Van, Arkansas. The one-room schoolhouse was located in an African-American cotton farming community called Morgan Settlement. I walked to school that day with my 13-year-old sister Corrine, my 11-year-old brother Charles, and my 9-year-old brother Aubrey. I had just turned 6. I knew everyone in the classroom because we all went to Hills Chapel AME Church with our family every Sunday. Our lives were centered around church, family, school, and working in the cotton fields. I was directed to my seat by the teacher, Mr. Bachman, who taught grades 1 through 8. There may have been 2 other first graders beside myself. We were assigned a desk in front of the classroom nearest the teacher. When the teacher called my name to go to the blackboard to print the alphabet, I was so nervous, as I am right now, and afraid that my little hand was shaking as I picked up the chalk. I had no idea what to expect except try and copy what he had written. Unlike today, who had heard of Head Start, pre-readiness skills, or kindergarten? None of that was in Arkansas at the time. So I felt like a little deer in the headlights. Poor little me, I just had to wing it the best I could. Soon the bell rang for recess. All the kids scrambled out of their seats and ran out to play. There was a swing for the younger children sitting in front of the school. I got in line, patiently waited my turn. Then I noticed some kids, probably some little knuckle-headed boys, would suddenly jump out of the swing before it came to a rest. Well, being naive, I thought that was what I was supposed to do. So when my turn came, I got in the swing and I pumped myself to a nice little height, and then all of a sudden I thought, at some point I got to jump off. So I coasted down a little, and then a voice in my head said, go. All of a sudden, hands in the air, my braids and dress flying, I went sailing through the air like a bird in a wind tunnel. Next thing I knew, I landed on the ground so hard with a stud to my little behind, it left me dizzy. I started shaking my head because I didn't know if I was dead or alive. After realizing I was alive, I thought, have I knocked out on my senses? Why did I do that? Am I going to be okay? I wasn't sure if I'd be able to stand up. After a minute or so, my head cleared a little. Then I looked around to see if anybody was coming to see if I needed help or if I was hurt. So I dusted off my dress and went back in the classroom. I know a guardian angel was watching over me that day. I told no one about what had happened because I didn't want my parents to find out. I promised myself I would never do anything that stupid again as long as I lived. Apparently, there was no brain damage from that jump because I seemed to be about as normal and functional as most people I've associated with during my life. My first day of school could have turned out very badly for me but for God's divine protection, for which I am eternally grateful.
Very good, very good.
My second short story is how I met my soulmate. In the movie Forrest Gump, the actor speaks of faith, saying, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're gonna get." I could barely contain my excitement on September 18th, 1959, as I boarded a Greyhound bus in Stuttgart, Arkansas. My destination, San Francisco, California. 3 days later, I arrived at the downtown Greyhound station on 7th Street. My brother Charles was there waiting to pick me up. He had quite a time loading my rather large cardboard box that my dad had tied with twine into his car. It contained as many of my clothes as I could bring, my diary, my high school yearbook, a photo album, and a few other personal items. I had left my little close-knit cotton farming community where I was born and lived for the first 18 years of my life. When I told my parents some months earlier that I wanted to go to San Francisco after graduation and go to college, they had no objections. As my dad and I made our way down the gravel road that day, I looked back one last time, and all I could see was dust curling behind this pickup truck. Whatever life would be for me in San Francisco, it had to be Wonderland. While waiting for college spring semester to start, I found a job at Children's Hospital. I also babysat for a few residents in the apartment complex where my brother and his wife lived. I was excited and looking forward to new prospects and adventures in the big city. Well, back in Arkansas, my dad worked as a sharecropper who grew cotton for a living. He was a man of God and a hard worker, but blatant discrimination and poor economic condition had taken its toll. When my dad harvested his crop that fall, he knew it would be his last. Dad had stood his ground on an issue with the white landowner, and being a black man, he knew he had to leave town. He and Mom wrote a letter to my brother Charles about moving to California. He was inspired by his brother William, who had left Arkansas and moved to Vallejo some years earlier, and was enjoying some aspect of the American dream. He figured he had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Charles agreed, and in January, he and William drove to Arkansas and moved the remaining family members to San Francisco. Charles found my parents an apartment on Reardon Road in Hunters Point, and I moved in with them at that time. My dad and brother found a job pretty quickly, and my sisters enrolled in school. My mom never worked outside the home. By then, I had enrolled in the spring semester at City College and made several friends, one who is in the audience tonight, who were also migrants from the South. We went to the movies, playland at the beach, amusement park, riding in the Big Dipper and bumper cars. We'd go to shopping downtown at the Emporium with its bargain basement. We stopped at the candy shop in the back of the store just before dashing out to catch the Muni home. My life was looking a lot brighter than the one I had left in Arkansas. Up to that time, now I had been on only one date since I arrived in San Francisco. The guy was a jerk, and I was so happy he never called me again. Then, as fate would have it, in late October 1960, I got a call from Lois, a family friend who was also from Arkansas. She asked me if I'd help her sell raffle tickets for her social club, so I agreed. She said she would get her brother to drop them off. Well, I'd never met her brother, so it was no big deal. A little later in the afternoon, there was a knock on the door. I went to the door, opened it, and standing there was this well-dressed young man wearing a fedora with his head sort of tilted to the side, something like this, while flashing this big grin. He's like, as if he's thinking, well, well, now who is this little cutie pie? He said, hi, I'm Sam. And I said, I'm Steve, come in. He said hello to my parents, then proceeded to chit-chat about one thing or another. It appears they knew each other, so I was comfortable. On the surface, he seemed polite, friendly, and kind of laid back. I knew he was older than me. He didn't stay long, just gave me the tickets, and then he left. Well, about a week or so later, he called the house. When Mom called me to the phone, I was surprised and wondered, why does he want to speak to me? He started out telling me that he had gone to high school with my older sister Corinne and my brother Charles. As a matter of fact, he and Charles were in the same grade and were good friends. Charles was 6 years older than me, so I quickly calculated Sam's age. We talked a good while on the phone, and just before hanging up, he asked me if I'd like to go out with him. Now that really caught me off guard, because I thought he was too old. I'm like 19 at that time, and he was 25. And so I felt weird, and also he was Charles's friend. Well, anyway, I figured since my parents knew him, he was probably okay. So I took a leap of faith and said yes. I suggested that we go to see the movie Spartacus with Kirk Douglas and Gene Simmons. Would you know, it was a love story, and we both enjoyed it. Spartacus became a cherished memory, and we never forgot where we went on our first date. Who would have known that would be the first of many dates to come? Well, like me, Sam was raised in a Christian home with proper spiritual direction. 7 years prior, he had migrated to Santa Rosa to live with his brother after his high school graduation. He had recently completed a stint in the Army and was currently working for a municipal railway and living with his sister Lois. Even though I did not know it then, I learned that my parents knew Sam's parents when we lived in Arkansas. As a matter of fact, my dad's brother William was married to Sam's sister Corinne. Wow, small world. Sam and I shared a lot of the same interests. We went to the beach and on picnics in the park with another couple we knew. We went to the movies, to church with my family, and to visit my brother Aubrey, our relatives and friends in Arkansas who lived in the East Bay. Well, approximately 6 months later, I knew I'd met someone very special. I could not have been happier, and it felt I'd known Sam all my life. I was touched when he told me he was going to ask my dad for his blessings. Seems like 1 minute I was footloose and fancy-free, and the next I'm planning to be married. 3 weeks after I turned 20 years old, and just 10 months after I met Sam, we tied the knot at my brother Charles's house on Gate Street in San Francisco. Over the first 6 years of our marriage, we welcomed 2 beautiful daughters, Anita, who's in the audience, and Lana, to our family. Sam loved to listen to a good joke, but he could not tell one because he'd often bungled the ending. Then he'd laugh and say, "Steve, why don't you tell it?" After we retired, I admit I did not like to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. So when we had, Sam had this knack of telling what I call the Steen show and tell. So we'd have company over for dinner, and then he would make this big announcement. Well, I'm glad you all came over for dinner today so I can get something to eat. And that would draw a big hearty laugh from everybody. And I'd look at him and I'd say, Sam, cut the Steen jokes, okay? Then he'd laugh even harder at that because he knew he'd got my goat. Sam worked for the railway for 30 minutes before taking an early retirement when he was just 56 years old. I retired as well after working for several companies, lastly Blue Shield. Retirement was filled with new hobbies, travel, and delightfully watching our grandchildren perform music and sports. One of the grandsons is in the audience. Sam was a fierce competitor in dominoes, pool, and whist. He bowled in the Muni League for many years until he took up golf. He belonged to several clubs. He played twice a week with his group, sunshine or rain. He was over the moon thrilled when he got a chance to play at Pebble Beach, as well as some of Hawaii's beautiful ocean view courses. He was a gifted, self-taught handyman. He possessed mastery skills in carpentry, plumbing, and electrical systems. He thought nothing of sliding underneath his car to change his brakes. Except for a common cold now and then, Sam was very healthy all his life. He went to the emergency room only once during our marriage when he cut his finger washing dishes on our wedding day. Sam was my best friend and the love of my life. He was dearly loved by his extended family and brought a lot of joy to the lives of many people he knew. Then, in the summer of 2021, just before his 86th birthday, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He fought the disease as best he could, but it took his life in May 2022. This has been the most difficult challenge I've ever had to face. Although Sam is physically gone, he is still very much alive in a way that I cannot explain or understand. We were married for 61 years, and nowadays, that's like finding a rare diamond. It's priceless. Once while in Arkansas, a lady who knew us said to me, "You went all the way to California to marry somebody from Arkansas?" I was stunned, as that thought had never crossed my mind. That's the beauty I find in writing this story. I met my soulmate, Sam, at the time and place I did, because that is the way God destined it to happen. That's faith. And now these three remained: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. 1 Corinthians 13:13. And my last story is, I am the G-O-A-T. I am hands down the greatest of all time. I may sound a little conceited saying this, but I really like myself. And I think I'm an absolutely wonderful person. The people who know me, know that they're some of the luckiest people in the world. I am wired to be a loving and kind person. As a matter of fact, love is my favorite word. I always lead with love. Believe me, I have no enemies. Who could not like me? No No one. If there is someone who doesn't like me, I don't think they've ever met me. I am genuine, the real deal. I am not one who put on airs trying to impress someone. I am confident, and I know my own worth, and I am cherished. I am also a people person. I am generous with my time, and I love helping people. I believe true greatness comes by putting others first. I tried to follow Jesus' example. He said, I came not to be served, but to serve. Matthew 20:28. I am an excellent driver, and I know it. I was taught by the best teacher, my husband, Augustine Phillips. I have practically driven all over Northern California. About 10 years ago, with my sister, who's there, and my grandson in the car with me, I drove single-handedly all the way to Pasadena from San Francisco. Now that's 400 miles one way. No big deal. I have gone to visit my friend who lives in Auburn for many times. That's 200 miles round trip. I stay a few hours, then hop back in my car and drive back home. It's a piece of cake. Now, one of the ways I stay fit is by cycling. I have this beautiful white Verve 2-bicycle Trek. I've never seen another bike like it. I throw it in the back of my SUV and take it down to the Foster City bike trail that runs along the bay. When other cyclists see me coming, they stop their bikes and just stare at me as I ride by. With my gray hair blowing in the wind, I whip around sharp curves like I'm cycling in the Tour de France. I am a sight to see, honey. One day, a friend of mine, and she's in the audience, invited me to come and check out her art class at the Senior Center. I have never painted anything before, but because I'm so multi-talented, I wasn't worried one little bit. The teacher passed around a sketch of this rooster that he had painted. Then he proceeded to stir up his little colors to, mix them up so we could get the effect of his painting. Well, I proceeded to mix up my colors, and I went to work. At the end of the class, the teacher walked behind me, and he looked down at my painting, and it looked better than his. So I took my rooster home, bought a frame for it, and hung it in my kitchen. I get so many compliments, and people want to know where they can buy it. I tell them, Amazon. Search for Augustine's rooster. I never went back to that class because I'd already created a masterpiece. Just genius. Okay, so I'm a golfer. I learned to play this sport when I was 55 years old. Yeah, I said 55. Now, you all know that is just simply unheard of, huh? Tiger Woods started playing when he was around 5 years old. Well, by the time he's 55, he'll be all washed up. Not me. I believe age is just a number that limits others. I was invited to travel halfway across the country to play in a Sisters Across America golf tournament in Orlando, Florida. I won a few dollars for closer to the hole or something like that. I donated my money back to the club. Sometimes I just get tired of winning. I even shot a hole-in-one on a par 3 at Hardin Golf Course in San Francisco. Admit it, That is just beyond belief. I could have turned pro had I wanted to because I'm just that darn good. I could go on and on, but I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. But I have to mention a couple more little things. Now, I love to bowl. Now listen to this. When I show up at the bowling alley just to practice, everybody rushes down to my lane. They literally have a scuffling match trying to get a seat behind me. They don't want to miss seeing something spectacular. Now, I know I don't look it, but I'm in my 80s now. I'm in excellent shape, and I can still throw my 14-pound, high-glossed hammer bowling ball. It is custom drilled with a fingertip grip that fits only my hand. This grip allows my ball to hook and get more strikes. My ball is just a beauty as it glides down the lane for strikes, scattering all 10 pins. I have onlookers dipping and swaying as I put on a show. On rare occasions, I might leave one pin standing. If that happens to be the 10-pin spare, which is the most difficult to hit, I can close my eyes and take it down. I never worry, because trust is a must or your game is a bust. I'm so gifted I can't even stand myself. Now hang on to your hats, because I guarantee you this one is going to be really hard for you to believe. But trust me, it's true. I learned to swim when I was 50 years old. Yeah, I was said 50. Most people can't pull themselves up the ladder to get out of the pool at that age. But me, I mastered the freestyle, the breast, the back, and the side strokes. I have a certificate to prove it. The instructor taught the class how to dive into the pool and pick up a 1-pound brick. Well, being me, in no time, I could dive in and pick up that brick so quick I wouldn't even get wet. That brick knew I was coming and it would jump into my hand, leaving the instructor awestruck. Now, don't you all wish you were as great as me? I am the GOAT.